Welcome back, everybody. My name is Jona Bryndis, and we're going to be looking into the Empath weekly here, the energy forecast for energetically sensitives and empaths. Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. There's a lot going on. We're going to be talking about toxicity today, conspiracy theories, and spiritual growth. All right, so I hope that these subjects will resonate with you. There's such an important message in here that is sometimes a little hidden because I talk about all these different aspects of our lives, and sometimes when somebody tunes in, they hear me talk about physical stuff or they hear me talk about spiritual stuff. But what this really is about is to look at ourselves a little more holistically, to look at us as soul beings, and this includes the physical and the emotional and the mental and our relationships, our spiritual and energetic. So I hope that I can give you an overview in the energy tips, which come out parallel to the energy update published on the Patreon channel. I go a lot deeper into this. So this coming week's theme here, October 6th till 12th, might be really interesting for you guys, especially if you've already identified yourself as empath or energetically sensitive person. I've called this energy update Toxicity Overload, and there's a reason for this. So this next week is a bit of a, I want to say, corrective energy that is coming in here. We're supposed to learn how to grow, how to evolve, and a lot of that happens through these lessons that we experience every day. And as most of you probably know, they reflect in our relationships, not just our romantic relationships, but our relationships with our friends, with our children, with our family, with our work buddies, and of course our inner relationship. And here we've talked a lot, or we talk a lot about our inner relationship. But next week will show us the mirror of that a bit, because everything that goes on within, also reflects in our outer relationships. And so many of you have been accepting or enabling or, simply don't know why they have been experiencing this toxicity in their life over and over again. Why do we attract toxic relationships or toxic partners into our lives? And I want to shed some light in this. Guys, if you have questions or if you would like to comment here, please let us all know how you or what you are currently reflecting on. What do you think is responsible for you attracting toxic relationships, toxic partners into your life? It's extremely healthy and extremely healing to hear, other people's problems and to realize that what it is that we are struggling with really isn't just our own. But we do need to look a little deeper into this. And so next week's energy will bring this, sort of looking at things from that perspective. Where am I actually learning my lesson? Where are things repeating? And some of these things do repeat through whole entire generations in our family. So I know that many of you have already identified things such as codependency running through your families, and there's a reason for this. So it's all about bringing things into balance. Just because we recognize that we attract these kind of things into our lives doesn't mean we're screwed, doesn't mean that this is our karma forever. No, it means that there's something there that we're simply not getting, something that keeps repeating for the sake of teaching us what we need to grow, what we need to heal in many of our cases. So next week we'll bring in this really strong impulse of no longer wanting to go into replay, no longer wanting the repeat, okay, and to really be present with our personal growth. And for some of us, and especially those of us who are sort of etherically aware, who can tune into collective energies and who have cultivated, this looking inside through meditation, through mindfulness, and who are beginning to tune into, sort of things that are the energies and entities and so forth that are going on, the etheric going-ons, right? For you guys, I have a very special message here for this next week, and this counts for all October, really. You're going to feel a strong impulse to grow into your spiritual warrior self. I would love to hear from you guys if anyone has experienced something like that, if you know what I'm talking about. There is something in us, guys, that we call remembrance, that has to do with knowing who we are and what we came here for. It has to do with soul purpose, and we're going to get a strong impulse here, a strong ping, all right, to deal with some of these dragons that are out there. The only problem is with not enough roadmap, not enough navigation, not enough internal, own experience. We are not actually sure what it is that we are experiencing. And so many of us have issues with this contextualization, with what does this even mean? And this can confuse us, this can get us into fear, into anxiety, this can lead us to believing that there is something wrong with us, or that the way we perceive reality is wrong. Okay, so questioning our reality, that is one of these markers of toxicity. The question is, what is toxic? Is it your behavior that keeps attracting this toxicity in, or is it all just external? And the lesson here that is to be learned is that all this goes back to inner balance. All this goes back to how well you are able to balance out, the connectedness within yourself, the connectedness with others. There are many things that we as empaths or energetically sensitives perceive as toxic, but are they really toxic? Is it maybe just that we have a harder time dealing with them because there are some things that we're not doing? When it comes to some of our toxic relationship patterns, and I want to emphasize codependency here as one of those sort of most common toxic relationship patterns, it's often what we're not doing. It's often in what we're not saying. It's often in our passivity. All right, so I also want to raise your awareness a little bit here in regards to the things that you are observing, that you are already aware of, but where you're completely inconsequential, incongruent. Because balance and congruence, they go together, guys. You cannot be congruent if things are out of balance. All right? So all this here, you can hear this, right? Points back at, this navigation. How do we navigate through all this? What are our particular needs? What are our particular wants? And what is our integrity? What are our values? What are our priorities? And when those get out of balance, guys, that's typically when we either enable, accept, or even promote or pull in toxicity into our lives. So it's really important to understand that this isn't about blaming or making the world a bad place. There's many reasons right now in these times of uncertainty and times of sort of global awakening to blame the world, to blame people, to blame humanity. All right, but this isn't very sophisticated, guys. This isn't very mature to do that. Because guess what? You're here, and you're here for a reason. Your soul chose to be here. Okay, so there's a reason for you to be exposed to this. So exposure, of course, is one of those factors in toxicity. That is, if we keep, putting poison into us, be it physically through drugs or through, toxic products that we consume, or toxic thoughts, toxic emotions, or just the way we deal with ourselves, maybe a lack of self-care, a lack of self-love. Those are all things that contribute to us pulling toxicity into our lives, and to not actually growing. All right, so as an empath myself, all I can say is that whether or not this is all coming in from the outside, or whether it's my energetic sensitivity, it doesn't matter what it is that I have a struggle dealing with. If the way I deal with things, if the way I cope with things promotes toxicity, promotes life degrading or life demeaning actions, thoughts, emotions, all right, then it's my responsibility to do something about this, to grow beyond this, or to overcome whatever is, causing this. So I came up with this definition here of toxicity for us in our lives, seen as a whole, as the slow contamination, undermining, degrading, or harming of our inner balance, accompanied with, something that blocks our self-awareness, all right, generating coping behaviors and patterns that promote toxicity either in ourselves or in others, whether we are aware of it or unaware. So you can see it's quite complex, right? And one of the things that I know you guys all do, and again here I want to call you guys to share what it is that you've identified as toxicity in your life right now, like right this minute. What can you identify as toxicity in your life? But one thing that I can tell you guys without, depriving you of really going into this internal experience with this and verifying this for yourself, is this consistently questioning your reality and consistently questioning yourself and accepting growth preventing things, all right, such as moodiness, anxiety, anger, venting, guilt tripping, externalization of happiness, making others responsible for things, blame shifting and so forth, as the norm, be it something that comes from you or others. But that is the part, guys, that you need to look at. All of these things together, they prevent your growth. They prevent you from, having enough energy and gaining enough maturity to change what it is that degrades, that undermines you, that harms you, that makes you anxious, that poisons you. And yes, of course, when we're younger, it's a lot harder because we don't have that experience yet. So maturity plays a big role in there, but we cannot observe our own growth, guys, if we are not doing the steps that are needed to promote this. So one of the biggest contributors to toxicity in your life, besides, of course, some of the things that I've covered in other videos, childhood trauma or trauma altogether, the memory of trauma, this recall or the fear of recurring trauma, is, the lack of action, passivity. And how come that we get stuck in inaction and passivity and therefore enable toxicity in our life? Because we can't discern. We have a problem with discerning. We have a problem with, navigating through all this, having all these beliefs that we never even sort of sent through our truth detector, right? We never even investigated them. Guys, you question yourself, you question your reality, but you forget to question those beliefs that you just take on as if they're true. They're not. Most of them are not. Most of them are unrealistic expectations, some kind of performance, perfectionism type of stuff. Some things are just learned behaviors, the role models in your life. If you grew up in an alcoholic family, then you don't think there's anything wrong with ingesting alcohol every day. If you grow up with people that smoke pot every day, you don't think there's anything wrong. But I'm telling you, there's a lot wrong with this, because this is not life promoting, it's not growth promoting. Okay? This is dangerous. And I'm not talking about the moral aspect of things. I'm talking about what you're doing to yourself. And with that, of course, how that messes with your perception of reality, how that messes with your ability to accept something as okay. Have you even reflected on deeper, not just on the outside, what you present here to the outside world, but what you within yourself accept as normal? When these things get stuck in us and we cannot discern, the only way to find out is actually if we go into reflection, if we actually go into feedback. That is the most important tool that you have. It's a natural thing to go into feedback and say, hey, maybe it's just me, but the way I'm perceiving this, it doesn't feel good to me. It makes me, cringe. It makes me contract. It makes me want to check out. It makes me angry. It makes me resentful. All right. So what are these things, guys, that you have already identified, or were you not sure? Share this here with us. Okay. So that I or other people can honestly reflect on that. I know that many of you guys have very, very similar problems. So in this next week, it's going to be about evaluating this, and especially our relationships. And, many of you are maybe in a bit of a shaky situation with your relationships, because you feel these inner impulses coming forward, and you want to really have more meaning and find purpose and so forth with yourself and your relationship. My tip for you here, just sort of publicly, is to beware of overreacting. Okay, so while you think that there can only be either or, on and off, black and white, there often is, and this is the magic with when we go into balance. There's a third option, and actually, the more you go into truth with yourself, the more options you will find. And oftentimes it's just tiny little adjustments, tiny little corrections that have to be made. So transiting from a place of toxicity, from a place of passivity, from a place of stuckness, into freedom, which is what we all strive for here. For many of us, if not all of us, has to happen in increments. It has to happen in form of you giving yourself more space. You need to create a roadmap. You need to create a transition. All right, from zero to hero is not possible. That's an unrealistic expectation and sets you up for failure. Many of you get stuck in self-sabotage stuff. All right, and it's not that easy, to say, oh, it's because of my relationship. Oh, it's because of that. No, it's a lot more complex. So for next week, I want you to really reflect on this. Share this with us, what you have already identified as toxicity, and maybe where you don't know how to get past that. All right, this is what people like me, energy healers, energy coaches, life coaches, therapists, this is what we do. We help you to open things up. We help you to create more space and develop a roadmap with you. Okay? Next week is a wonderful week to do this. There's enough on the outside going on, guys. Enough toxicity, all right, that it's difficult enough, really, to focus on yourself. So as far as the collective is concerned, and you don't have to be an energy worker or a clairvoyant to see this. There's a lot of toxicity around right now, and a lot of what is going down in the collective right now has to do with overreaction, has to do with neurosis, this neurotic part in us that kicks in and says, I knew it all along, and it's like, it's very narrow-minded, very fear-based. Okay, so, whether it's politics, finances, and also relationships, tariffs, all these things, that are playing out on the political, on the news level, even, those erratic actions, shootings and stuff like that, There's more of this that will come in next week, accidents, surprise events, okay? And for us, the task here is to not get overwhelmed and to not go into overreaction. Overreaction is always the result of an imbalanced state. What does this have to do with conspiracy theories? Well, in times like this, and especially where there's also a lot of astral stuff flying around, we talked about this here in previous energy updates, and there's also YouTube videos, explainer videos that you can look up about this. All this gets fueled. All these, powers to be, these dark forces and so forth. People get really pulled into the neurosis of that. And when I sent out the special message here to those of you who feel a prompting to be of service in some ways through, growing into their spiritual warrior self, I want to let you know that these things are all real, okay, but they're not necessarily true, okay? So it's the fear in us, the fear of not being in control, or the fear of being, sort of steered from the outside that enables that. So pushing energy into conspiracy theories, guys, is counterproductive to spiritual growth, all right? And also counterproductive to, helping the collective, to grow, all right? So you're going to have to look at these things wisely. Everything that you get pulled in. Sometimes, it's not so much the outer stuff, but it's your inner stuff, the stuff that comes in through the astral. And there are dark forces and light forces, but it's not like you think, guys. It's not the good guys against the bad guys. There is only, in the etheric, really, there is only, very simplified, light or the absence of light, okay? And part of our balance is to understand that this exists in us as well. It's like as above, so below. Okay, this fight between the dark and the light takes place within us, in our human duality. And these dragons, these demons that you see, most of them are your own or other people's. So if you really want to learn how to deal with that and bring that into balance, well, that's what, places like transCODES are for. We go into that place with you as well. Not just the psychological stuff, not just the physical stuff. We can also help you with some of these etheric aspects of your being and how to, deal with this in the astral realm. Anita, thank you so much for sharing. You've been dealing with a lot of toxicity as caregiver for a person who's having mental health issues from side effects of cancer meds. This is a very, very important subject. I will talk about this in the energy tips as a matter of fact. Mental illness, be it through family members, through clients, or, simply because it's our job, can bring in a lot of toxicity into our lives. But it can, in this case, the side effects of meds, all right, can really bring a person out of balance, and therefore almost attract more toxicity into their lives. So it's a catch-22, you want to get rid of the cancer cells, but then at the same time you're actually degrading or lowering or preventing a person's own self-healing abilities to kick in. So yes, of course, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about, the pharmaceutical industry promoting that. I can see that too. But for you now, as the caregiver, Anita, it's even more important. Everything that I said here today, it counts double for you, because if you volunteer, all right, to expose yourself to toxicity in that way, the same could be said about social workers, therapists, people who volunteer in, environments that are really, sort of toxic in and of itself. All right, you guys have to take extra care of yourself, and you need to work with your boundaries. You need to be consequential there. All right, you need to learn how to ground, how to center yourself, and how to invite your light back in. Because look, when toxicity in the spiritual sense is the absence of light, okay, and what drains us is, this continually sort of being exposed to this drainage. And so we have to make sure that we replenish the light within us, and that can then also help other people, because that's contagious. But negativity, darkness is also contagious. So when you are working as a caregiver, Anita, and all of you, my heart goes out to you. You need to know what you need, and need to be extremely consequential about this, because you won't be able to do this without inviting or enabling toxicity within yourself. This is one of these big issues for healers too. That's why we here at transCODES have a lot to do with healer empath healers. Paul and Melly, thank you so much. You are the winners of the Energy Training Club here for October. I want to read what Paul and Melly shared. transCODES has helped me in the confirmation of things and situations, circumstances, feelings, and emotions through these energy tips. It has also helped me in teaching me things that I've known in my spirit, and to remember, these things of well-being. Over the past 5 months, it has helped me to stay centered, balanced, and also helped me overcoming blockages in my own evolution towards my higher self, even to the point that I have come to a new understanding of what my presence on earth and in this time, what my spirit and my soul stand for. And Paul, thank you for saying this. You found out that you stand for love. This is very, very touching, very moving, very, very beautiful. You are the winner of one of those energy training clubs. I need you to send me your email address so that you can be included in all the instructions and downloads for that. Melly has shared, transCODES helps me to stay grounded in these times of intense change. Your uploads remind me that I came to this life for many reasons, and how my crazy 3D ride has forced me to connect to aspects of myself which I may have never known in this time. If my life had been a walk in the park, I hope this makes sense. Greetings from New Zealand. Melly, this makes a lot of sense. Obviously, my reading and thinking and all that in these live streams is, my mental capacities are not that good, so my reading is a bit off. But this is very moving, guys, and this motivates me. This gives meaning to what I do, the sleepless nights because I'm video editing, or the nights that I can't read to my kids, or that I can't play with my dog or whatever. It gives us meaning. Thank you, guys, for sharing this with us. I'm going to go to record the energy tips for the Heart Warriors and the Patreons, and I hope that you guys get through this next week with a cool reflection. I'm going to be back next Thursday, same time. Tell your friends, share the video, and sign up for my email list, guys. And don't forget to like. That's the times of social media. Thank you.